All right, I want to thank everybody for coming here to the preview of the 2017 Joe Nuxhall Classic. This is the 9th edition of the event. Started back in 2009 as a way to honor the old left-hander, 17-year major leaguer and longtime Cincinnati Reds broadcaster Joe Nuxhall. It trades back and forth between Cincinnati and Miami. Cincinnati hosts here in odd-number seasons, Miami in even-number years. And as we mentioned, this will be the 9th edition of the event. Every year, it is Cincinnati, Miami, Wright State, and Xavier taking part, as it's a great opportunity to showcase the great college baseball here in Southwest Ohio. Through the years so far, Wright State leads in Joe Nuxhall Classic titles, as the Raiders have won 4 times. Cincinnati has won 3, and Xavier has won 1 title. We're going to now hear from our head coaches from each of the respected teams. Xavier's Scott Guggens, Miami's Danny Hayden, Cincinnati's Ty Neal, and Wright State's Jeff Mercer. We'll start with Xavier's Scott Guggens previewing tomorrow afternoon's matchup between Xavier and Cincinnati. Coach, obviously this is an event that means a lot to a lot of people here in Cincinnati. Joe Nuxhall, a fixture in this community for so long, both as a major leaguer and as a broadcaster. I know a lot of people here in Cincinnati can recall times listening to the old left-hander on the radio and his impact on the community. What does it mean as a local school to be a part of this event, and for you specifically with Xavier to be the first annual winner of it?
It's an awesome way to continue Joe Nuxhall's legacy here in Cincinnati. Not only for older people like myself that remember him on the radio, but the local teams and people to understand what Joe Nuxhall meant not only to Cincinnati baseball, the Reds, but also the community with his son Kim doing what he does with the Miracle League. I think it's awesome to be a part of this festive.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now move on to Miami head coach Danny Hayden. We know, obviously, Joe, not only a fixture here in Cincinnati, but being a Hamilton, Ohio native up in Butler County, same county as Miami University. Obviously, a lot of connection between Joe and the Red Hawks. We've got a lot of Red Hawk fans up there in Hamilton, and I know for your school, obviously, an honor to be hosting this tournament every year. What does it mean for the Red Hawks to be a part of this?
It's obviously really neat. A lot of things Coach Guggens said are definitely true, I think, probably for all of us. One of the cool things for Miami in particular is Joe Nuxhall started broadcasting there. He did some basketball games up there to start his broadcasting career. And then I live in Hamilton, so every time I'm walking down the street and somebody, hey, you're a baseball coach in Miami, they got a Joe Nuxhall story for you. And I can tell you the legend continues with Joe Nuxhall. It's as strong as it's ever been. And I think the most important thing to honor his life is certainly what his son's doing right now with the Miracle League, and how neat I think everything that they do up there is, and how excited I am to be continuing to be involved with that part of it, and then obviously getting to come out here and play baseball against some good teams and good competition is as good a way as any to honor Joe Nuxhall. So excited about it.
There's always certainly a lot of excitement around this event. Now we'll talk with Cincinnati head coach Ty Neal. We know obviously with Joe Nuxhall being both a player and broadcaster for the Reds, the connection here in Cincinnati. But beyond that, though, a chance to honor him with getting all these local teams together, obviously a great showcase of baseball here in the area. How much does it mean for the Bearcats to be a part of it, not only as a competitor, but as a host site as well?
It's neat. It's a neat opportunity for all of us. These local schools, being from Southwest Ohio, with our connection with the Cincinnati Reds, the things that we're able to do with them being at the University of Cincinnati. And, I like to say here in Southwest Ohio, this is amateur baseball at the highest level. Division I baseball, it's the last level, the highest level of amateurism before professional baseball. So, it's just neat, just a special story for me of being, the opportunity to be the head coach here at the University of Cincinnati. But just with Joe Nuxhall, I had an opportunity to meet him back when I was pitching as a left-handed pitcher at Miami University, and he had nothing but time for me. And I think that's baseball, the baseball community in general. Of all of us guys here, we know each other. We've known each other for a long time. Baseball is a small fraternity of guys that share the same hours and same grind and trying to figure out way to do what we love, but also raise a family. And but just for Joe Nuxhall to have time for me, as at the time I was a nobody. I was just an amateur pitcher chasing the dream, and just the time that he had for me, I think speaks volumes of the person that he was. And I think we owe it to him to spend a little time here together today to honor him and his legacy of being in our first baseball city as well, the first baseball city here in Cincinnati. But it's neat to be a part of it.
And we'll also introduce Wright State head coach Jeff Mercer. This is an event, obviously, that brings all these local teams together. These are teams that you guys are no strangers to each other, often facing off throughout the season. But what does it mean to be a part of this event and maybe have it mean a little bit more with the Joe Nuxhall name attached? To have a chance to get the tournament trophy as your team has been able to do the last few years?
I certainly have a unique perspective on this, having been a player coming through and now assistant. Not being a head coach and obviously getting to honor Joe, but also getting to compete against guys that you're out seeing every day. Our players, they play together. They come up through middle school and high school together. A lot of these guys are friends and competitors, and going out and recruiting against these guys, it means a great deal. And, any time that you get to compete against your peers, especially him in his honor, but also personally, you want to go out and you want to be the best, and you want to try to come out and really prepare your team for a championship run. And this is an opportunity for us to come out and play in a tournament type setting and hopefully continue to have success. But a very humbling experience, and very excited to get to go and be a part of it with so many guys that you spend so much time with personally, but also our players knowing each other and the friendships and the rivalries a part of that as well. So it's something I look forward to as a player and as an assistant, and now my first time as a head coach. I'm very excited about it.
We'll go back over here to Xavier and talk with head coach Scott Guggens. Your team coming off of an NCAA tournament appearance, obviously a lot of excitement around the program. This is an event that kind of comes halfway through the season thereabouts for a lot of these teams. What does an event like this, perhaps if you can win the championship in the Joe Nuxhall Classic, what can that do for your momentum for a stretch run in the season as you try to get into the NCAA tournament for the postseason?
First of all, I'd say probably bragging rights. No, I think what it does is you play midweek games, and once you get into conference play, which we are right now, sometimes our guys look at midweek games as it's just it's another practice. It really doesn't mean that much. When you put it in a tournament type setting, again it's kind of that one and done type mentality, and you get a little bit more of a feel of what the tournament's going to be. I think it does do a lot for your confidence. It also does a lot for seeing how guys react in certain situations. So I do like the format. I also like that it's just not a midweek game. Hey, we're just not playing UC. It's just, hey, we're not playing Miami. There's something on it, and so I think it brings a lot to it.
And now for Miami head coach Danny Hayden, kind of building on that with this coming halfway through the season as you're kind of just now hitting into the meat of conference play and what it can do for you momentum-wise. If you can win a Joe Nuxhall Classic, I'd imagine that really gives your team a lot of momentum heading forward.
Yeah, I think for us in particular, we're struggling a little bit in conference right now, and we got to do some stuff to get right. And we're playing better baseball now than we were earlier in the season. And for us, this is an awesome opportunity to play really good baseball teams in a midweek setting with a little bit more on the line, like Coach Guggens was saying, a little bit more on the line than maybe a normal Tuesday or Wednesday game. We've got opponents that we know very well. Guys in both dugouts that know each other, played against each other. So I think it's an easy game to be tuned in for, locked in for, and for us. Miami in particular, it's important for us to play really good baseball so we can continue to win games, get hot, and hopefully get things right in our conference for sure.
This championship can certainly be a great opportunity to build some momentum heading to the stretch run of the season. Now for Cincinnati head coach Ty Neal, your team has had some momentum as of late, taking 2 out of 3 against a top 25 opponent in South Florida. Big win over Ohio State last week as well. But when you're having 2 games during the middle of the week, obviously that can make for a big week. And if you can get off on the right foot here at the beginning, midweek, heading into the weekend.
Yeah, we're all in the middle of it right now. all of us with the conference games coming up this weekend, but it's time to strap it on. We all like each other up here and everything, but don't think that none of these schools sitting up here. We're all gonna do everything we can to win. Starting tomorrow, but then for that game on Wednesday. But I think the big thing is the Wednesday game, having that second midweek game. You hope something's on the line, but it's opportunity. We all have some guys maybe that aren't quite getting the innings or the at-bats that they want right now, and we all know if we want to make postseason runs, we're maybe one or two guys shy of rolling right now. Towards a chance for us as a program and some of our guys within our program, maybe to help us win a championship here, a Tuesday and Wednesday Joe Nuxhall Classic championship, get a little confidence and earn some more opportunities down the road. So I think it's neat to be the host. We don't need any extra pressure, but it's going to be great for us to be able to play in front of our home crowd, and we're going to put our best lineup forward both days and see what happens.
Should be a great event here. 4 games over 2 days, the Joe Nuxhall Classic. Now, finally, for Wright State head coach Jeff Mercer, this is your first year at the helm of this program, but you've been a part of it for a while, both as an assistant and a player. A lot of success from the Raiders here as of late, coming off 2 NCAA tournament appearances, along with 4 of the last 5 Joe Nuxhall championships. Obviously, a lot of momentum for your team here over the last several years.
Yeah, it's been a good couple of years. We've been successful. I look forward to this week, learning from more about our guys like we did the last few years. You look at a guy like John Brodner hitting 9-hole for us and was MVP of the Nuxhall tournament, and then went on to be hit 9-hole and was the MVP of our conference tournament and helped lead us back to a regional final appearance. But you look at guys like that, we've had the injury bug like everybody does, and an opportunity like this in a championship environment allows those guys to shine and allows your most competitive guys to step up. And you're going to need those guys. You go to 4 games in 5 days or 5 games in 4 days, whatever, how your tournament setup is. And, that last guy on the bench, between the last 2 guys, who is it and who can go for it, who can make that play? And an opportunity like this helps to separate those 2 guys. And, that's just something that I've seen that's really, bore fruit for us from this, setting in the last couple of years, and has really helped us down the road as who can be that guy late, who can be that guy that you may not go into it thinking your 9-hole guy is going to be the MVP, but daggone, he ends up winning the thing for us twice and kind of catapulted us forward. So I'm excited to see how those guys react, kind of like Coach Neal said, and seeing who's going to be the guy that steps up for you.
It actually was at the Rosie Reds every year give to all the local colleges, and it was my senior year at Miami University. I was the representative for Miami that came down, and they used to do it differently. Now they just do it at pregame at a Reds game. Before, they would do it just like this. It would be at a luncheon. You would join the Rosie Reds luncheon and have an opportunity to sit at a table with Joe Nuxhall. And we didn't talk about anything real important other than he had time for me. And I think that's what we all do. We all kind of sit around and as baseball guys and talk about the weather and family and hey, did you see that play last night? That type of stuff. But no, just appreciative of his time and what he's done for baseball, and even what he at the time was doing with the Rosie Reds.
I met Joe my freshman year at Miami as a player. We were on our spring trip, and he came to a game. Coach Googans was on that staff, but he came to I think actually it was a practice, and after practice he sat down with our team in the dugout. And he talked to us it was probably about 15 minutes. He sat there and talked with us. And I'd say that was the thing I took away from it the most is I grew up in Cincinnati listening to Marty and Joe on the radio. He was like a god to me, and that he was sitting in the dugout with us on this back field at a spring training facility talking with us. It was really neat that he had that time for us. That was a neat experience, definitely for me to get to listen to. For a lot of our guys in the dugout, It probably wasn't the same if they didn't grow up in Cincinnati and grow up a Reds fan and all of that. But I was that kid, and for me, I felt very much like a little kid listening to him on the radio, except for I could reach out and touch him, and that was a pretty neat experience for me for sure.
That was about the same. I was at that. I think the same thing. Again, I remember listening to him in the dugout, and again, when you idolize, that guy and Marty, and then all of a sudden you meet him, and then you see how humble he is and how nice and down to earth he was, and the way some of the stories he talked about, and you're just like, wow, he's like us. But you don't think that way. You put him on a pedestal, but he was just a genuine person, and like Ty was saying, the time, just being there was awesome.
I think the coolest thing about Joe is how he'd get in story mode for a half inning. And then Marty'd kind of bring him back in every once in a while, where you could be listening on the radio, and if you tuned in at the wrong time, you might not know a baseball game was on, because Joe would be telling this awesome story that you were just as interested in as what Barry Larkin was doing in his third at bat. So I think those were cool, neat things. But I loved the old left-hander. Like all the things that were Reds radio were neat, and I was the kid who would have it on the TV, but I'd have the radio on, so I didn't listen to the TV guys, and I'd listen to Marty and Joe, and getting in the car and listening to Marty and Joe on the radio was about as good as it got for me. And it was better than watching the game, was listening to those guys tell you about it.
Men's basketball now, everything is about TV's got to set it up, or it's got to be a 2-for-1, or we won't go play there. But you know what I mean? It's just so hard to schedule these games anymore. Like UC basketball doesn't play Miami, they don't play Dayton. They did play Wright State a few years ago. How do you guys feel about that local scheduling? Is that one reason why this is a good thing?
Well, there's really good baseball here in Southwest Ohio, and it's our goal to play as competitive a schedule as we can, and we can do that close to home. And I think the other thing that keeps it going is, I don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow once the game starts, but we all know each other. We all have a history and a past together, and I'm a Miami University grad, so why would we do have control of our non-conference scheduling, but it's very important for me to play Miami University. I'm, and not to mention the friendship with Danny, but Coach Googans and I go way back, and how dare I walk in and say, oh no, we're not going to play Xavier anymore. I mean, that's we're pretty simple human beings when it comes down to it, and we all want the same thing. We all want the relationships, but we're all also able to play a very competitive schedule by playing each other. What else? You got anything? I like this guy too. I just don't know him as well yet.
Considering this is a game that's promoting amateur baseball in the area, what would you say is the state of amateur baseball in Southwest Ohio, and how does this game kind of promote that? Or these games, or this tournament, I should say.
I think baseball in Southwest Ohio is awful good right now. I think we all try to do as best we can to recruit the heck out of the area. There's a ton of really good baseball players, and I think there's a lot of really good coaching at the amateur level. That makes our job a lot easier when we get some of these guys on campus. What I'd like to have happen more is for it just be the four of us picking at these guys in Southwest Ohio and not all these other schools coming in, because I think it's not a secret that Southwest Ohio's got a lot of really good, talented baseball players, and it's tough sometimes to keep them in the region. Some of them guys have a little better success than others, but there's definitely no shortage of ability and players around the area.
I think the biggest thing for me, and obviously the amateur baseball in Cincinnati is top notch. The thing for me is that, for them to come out and see how good we are. Not only Xavier, Miami, UC, Wright State, but I think sometimes when Ty was talking about, we're Division I and we play at a very high level, and sometimes kids, they think they have to go south or go west to play the best baseball, and I don't think that's the case. I think, again, that's why I think this is a great tournament to showcase really what we have, and so that there's an opportunity that, hey, if you want to play at a high level, you can go to UC, you can go to Xavier, you can go to Miami, you go to Wright State and play at the top level. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that we are a good baseball collegiately too here in Cincinnati.
I think the best thing about baseball in this region, having been fortunate enough to kind of get around and play some different areas and be an assistant at a lot of different places, is the kid here is a different kind of kid too. And so we've got guys that, they're still 2 and 3 sport guys. They're still playing football. They're still wrestling. A lot of our best players have been great at other sports, opportunities to play college and other sports. And so when you get that guy in and you have that competitiveness when he steps on campus, as opposed, you can go out and you can find somebody from somewhere else, and they just don't have the same edge that some of the kids here have. And so, you look at our roster, as I've taken over the recruiting and now as the head coach, it's predominantly Ohio kids, and that's by design. By design, because they're adept at being able to compete and being able to come in and help us immediately and help elevate our program to another level. And so when you look at the state of amateur baseball in this region, I think it's very good for a multitude of reasons, but I think a big part of it is that they're still playing other sports, they're competitive, they have that Midwest blue-collar mentality to them, and that, it helps them to be successful in college baseball. But it's just good people. It helps them be successful in whatever it is they want to do, the ability to work. They know how to work. They know how to come every day and work hard and compete, and that makes us a successful person in general.
Oh, just real quick. I looked. I think it was a month ago. I spoke at a luncheon, and on our current 35-man roster, we have 9 guys between Cincinnati and Dayton, which is the schools here. We've got 19 total of the 35 from the state of Ohio, and Jeff mentioned earlier just a lot of our guys knowing each other from high school. You're going to see a lot of Southwest Ohio young men playing over the next 2 days here. And Coach Guggens mentioned one thing, we sit back as college coaches, and, there's a lot of people that want to play college baseball. They want to tell everyone, that, hey, I can play here, I can play there, he should play here. We recommend you go out and see us. You go out and watch a practice. You go out and watch these 4 games that are getting ready to happen, and it's a really good brand of baseball, and just the schedules that we all play. We play a very competitive schedule, not just us, but these schools. We all play a very competitive schedule, and that's what we keep. In the recruiting, I want to go play in the South. I want to go play. We do that. We do that here, and we win. And so, I don't know. It's we could talk about that. That's a whole other conversation. But this is really good baseball. There's going to be really good baseball here the next couple of days, and we recommend people come out and see it.
Anybody else have anything? All right, the Joe Nuxhall Classic starts tomorrow, 3 p.m., the first game between Miami and Wright State, and then Cincinnati and Xavier will follow that at approximately 6:30 p.m., day number 2 coming up on Wednesday. I want to thank everybody for coming out today, and we'll see you tomorrow.